I'm Savanna Leigh, and I'm a singer-songwriter based in Nashville, Tennessee, and this is my Roundtable interview about my EP, Reminders of You. I think upbeat songs are always tricky for me. When I try to write songs that have like a happier vibe to them, I end up feeling like my lyrics are like they're just like corny. And that's not all the time, but that's something that like I always kind of struggle with when I'm trying to write something like that. So I just remember, being with Andrew and Asia and like starting the song. And I honestly feel like at first I probably was pushing back a little bit just because it was so like kind of left of what I had done before. But I feel like melodically I just really liked how it sounded at first. And then once we like I think we kept the original day of vocals, I believe, for the track.
That's the only take.
Yeah.
That even exists, I think.
Yeah. So, and that was just because like having Asia in the room, she always like, whenever we've done stuff together, she'll like sit there and be like, do this, like you're not pushing here, you're not doing this, like very like in a good way, will be like pushing me way out of my comfort zone, just like even in vocal production stuff. So I guess like after that session, after I listened to it a few times, I knew that it was gonna fit the project, but it also was just gonna show people like a different side to my songwriting and my music style. So yeah, I guess like honestly the day after when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, for sure. For me, I try to write from like a very authentic spot most of the time, and it's not to say that I'm not happy ever. For me, happiness on like just like as a human being outside of music is like something that obviously is very easy for me to like express and share with other people. But I think I've always used music as like an outlet for me to also be able to express things that I have trouble saying outside of music. I'm not very openly vulnerable with people or very emotional, and it's not even because I don't want to be. I just don't think I know how to like always be in touch with those things. So music is kind of like my way of communicating what I can't say outside of it, and that's probably why I always lean toward more like deep, emotional, like sad, quote unquote music is, it's just kind of like an outlet for me, and I don't really need an outlet for my happiness at this current time. Hopefully maybe at some point, we'll see.
What I remember specifically about that session was that like it was a deliberate attempt to like do something different for you.
Yeah.
Like even like we wanted something that was like lighter than a lot of like the songs you were writing at the time, and also like even starting on the piano rather than like acoustic was like a deliberate thing of like, how do we kind of like shake it up and try something different? That's my memory of that session, at least.
I really think that it's like a cool situation when like the song lyrics can be really deep and meaningful, because I think that's like the goal of every song I make, is to have it like authentically connect and be like meaningful, but then have the production kind of like contrast the storytelling in the writing. So yeah, we went with like a happier sounding production, and then lyrics aren't as happy, but.
I mean, the lyrics are great, but like sonically it was even different than anything that I had done at the time. Like it was, I don't know, it felt fresh and exciting, and like even like the way that we kind of produced the vocals on that, and like the verses are super dry, and like the choruses are like stacked and washed out, and like it feels very beachy, and like the aesthetic of it was really cool to me. The lyrics aren't necessarily like sad. The music's not necessarily happy. I like love songs that land kind of in the middle sometimes, where it's like you can feel both sides like when you listen to it, depending on where you're at personally.
I think in general, if you are a songwriter and you're writing everything from like a perspective of something that like you've experienced or that you're going through, or just like it's honestly just from my point of view, like I'm not obviously playing a character, and all my music is like coming from like something I've genuinely been through or experienced. So I think because that is tied into like who I am as a person outside of music, and just everything's kind of through my own lens when I put it out, I feel like it has to tie back into like what makes me me. And I feel like psychology in general has just always been like an interest of mine outside of music, and I think it's always just given me like a really like I don't know if it's an easier pathway, but just like a better pathway to communicate with people that I really care about, and also just to understand myself in a deeper way. I've always been big on just like, figuring out how to understand myself, I guess. And that does help me with my songwriting as well. It just gives me like language to, better write songs. It's really terrifying when you've been someone that kind of like shuts out the idea of like needing another person or needing like love in your life, like any of those things. I feel like I'm someone who's just like super hyper independent and kind of like handles a lot of stuff on my own, and like we've talked about with like let myself cry, like I'm just not very in tune with my emotions. And so sometimes romantic partners can like bring up a lot for you. They can make you like notice a lot of things about yourself, and also just like feel emotions you didn't, haven't felt in a long time. And I think that can be scary, especially if you think the relationship could actually work out, because then it like ties all back into just like that hyper independence and being so used to being alone. And then also just the fear of self-sabotage of like, I don't know, being like, oh no, I have this person in my life now that I actually do want to be with, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. So now how do I make sure I don't self-sabotage this relationship? Because avoidant people have a tendency to do that when they get emotionally close to someone. So that's kind of how it all ties in.